Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
That's exactly right, Kevin O'Connell. Away we do go. Purple Access, Judd Zulgad, Chip Scoggins, as always. And Chipper, let's get right to it. I guess when Kevin O'Connell at the press conference after the Rams loss was probably as seething as we will ever see him at a podium and said the interior of the offensive line needs some improvements. And then at the combine said, it didn't really mean we were going to change. No, he did mean that. So since free agency started, Ryan Kelly is your center now. Will Fries is your very highly paid right guard. And it was completed last night. Donovan Jackson, Ohio State guard, who actually kicked out to tackle, but is going to be a left guard. How do you feel about the fact that the Vikings saw this through and have redone the interior of the offensive line?
Yeah, sometimes when O'Connell gives answers, you have to kind of read between the lines or parse out different things through his long quotes. But when somebody's emotional and they say something and it sort of just hits you right between the eyes, like this is what's on their mind. When my colleague Mark Craig asked him after that season-ending loss about his offensive line, and that was as frontal as O'Connell's going to get in terms of calling out a position or a player, saying we've got to address the interior offensive line. And I think he said part of that quote was, especially when you have Jefferson and Jordan Ass and these guys, that you got to be able to have the line hold up so you can get the ball to them. We should have run to Vegas and put down money that they're going to fix the interior offensive line, because it was not just him blowing off steam. It was him laying out the organizational blueprint for this offseason. And I you know what? After years of trading back to accumulate picks, and after weeks and weeks of us talking about what they should do, I liked Kwesi's, I wasn't at the press conference, but I read the quotes. I like Kwesi's golf analogy, where don't overthink it, basically. If you got a player that you love, go with it. And if they only wind up with 4 picks, I think they'll wind up with maybe one more through some wheeling and dealing next.
Sure.
But take the player, and I bet you they had 3 or 4 offensive linemen that they would have been, the North Dakota State player. I bet they had these guys that said, we will be happy if one of those is there, and one of those guys is there, and we're taking him. And I think this had O'Connell's fingerprints all over it, saying this is what we have to do to we have to continue to put the infrastructure around J.J. McCarthy to give him the best chance to succeed. And so I think Donovan Jackson, I think the fact that his versatility and the fact that he can kick out and play tackle if something happens with Darisaw or whatever, I think that probably sealed the deal for them.
You know what? My contention is this. If he hadn't played tackle, I don't know that they draft him. But I think the fact that he did play there, and also, we do need to keep in mind here, at least a little bit, that Darisaw is coming off a torn ACL and MCL, and I know he's had time to recover, and that's all great, but he's an enormous man.
He's a big man.
Yeah, and so I think it would be foolish to just assume he's going to be fine on the first day of the season. Hopefully that's the case, but I don't think it hurts to have a guy that can play left tackle, a premium position. And by the way, if Darisaw can't play on opening day and you hadn't filled a potential need there, I do think the Jackson goal is to have him be the left guard. But that's a big okay, right tackle, good. Right guard now, good. Center, good. And then left tackle is a question mark. So I think this also speaks to a desire for Jackson to play left guard, but it also provides insurance, because I don't know if I am super comfortable with if Christian has a setback, the long-term plan in 2025 being, Blake Brandel will play left tackle. So
that's right.
I could see a world in which this allows a little bit of versatility, and you feel better if there is a setback or a progress thing with Christian Darisaw.
Yeah, and it gives you some insurance. The thing I like about Jackson, and I can't sit here and say I studied his film, but things I like: Ohio State won a national championship, played against some big time talent in the trenches against Michigan, went against Abdul Carter, who was the number 3 overall pick at Penn State. So this guy has much like McCarthy. I just think there's something about guys that play on national championship teams and have that pedigree of winning, of playing at the highest level, and his willingness to, play a position that might have been a little uncomfortable for him and
Yes.
against some really elite players, and just said, you know what, we're trying to win a national championship and I'm going to help my team. That goes a long way when you're talking about these premier players that they have high, draft value. So, but it is interesting, Judd, as I looked, I was at the Wild game and I was kind of, keeping one eye on the draft tracker on my computer. Isn't it funny, man? A lot of teams made investment in offensive, defensive line.
Yeah.
We talked about it. It's like,
Well, they should.
It was hammered home in, the clearest way.
Yes.
If we needed a reminder that football's won in the trenches. And if you're the Vikings and you go into this season on paper, look at how much they upgraded their offensive line compared to last year. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they go from it's funny, we didn't talk about the offensive line a lot during the regular season because they were winning.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a clear deficit when they played against the best teams when it mattered.
Those last 2 games, huge.
Yeah, I mean, it was a deficit. And so, and I would say the defensive line too. Like, I would not be surprised if they added defensive tackle in the 3rd round.
I actually think that if there had been an upper echelon DT left, which there was not, I actually think there would have been a case to draft there because the 2 guys that you signed are 30 and 32. They're coming off injury plagued seasons. So like that is the one place where I would have taken a player above a guard, but those guys were gone because that's the thing is, everybody up front. I mean, heck, Chip, if you're the Vikings, you got your ass kicked by Detroit. You got your ass kicked by the Rams, and then you go to your couch and you watch the playoffs. And we talked about this. The playoffs are like basically a tutorial in how important the line play on both sides is. So like there could have been no clearer view of what you needed to do. And I do think the fact that the Vikings won, 13 games was great. But the reality is this. They started off playing much more of a smash mouth style. But by the time that you got to the end, and it wasn't necessarily their fault, but guys like Bradbury were spent.
Yeah, they were. They were broken. Yeah, had run out of gas.
Correct.
And you look at it. I mean, I just look at Detroit Lions. What did they take 1st round pick? Defensive tackle. Like that was an organization that built, from the inside out and with their line play, and it's just it's nice to see the commitment that the Vikings have made to the offensive line, defensive line. So you're right. They have to get a younger defensive tackle in there. I mean, their free agent additions, had big names, but they're older, and I mean that's not a plan for the future. Kwesi always talks about 2-year windows when they're planning, and this is a 2-year window there at defensive tackle. So they need to get younger there. So I think use, that or corner. I think with the first pick, their next pick has to be defensive tackle or corner, in my opinion.
And the nice thing about, or the potential thing about a DT too, is it's rotational. So that guy can play from day one.
Yeah.
Now I would expect that something will have gone very wrong if Jackson is not your day one left guard. He's going to start as well. But the defensive tackle can definitely play. To go back to your comment about the Kwesi quote, the golf analogy, I did think that was hilarious because if you replace golf with 2022 draft, that's what he was talking about.
That's like, 100%. Yeah,
he was 100% talking about. And you know what? Credit to Kwesi. He's a smart guy and he knows he screwed up. But like he could have just said, "Hey, you know what? Let's talk about the 22 draft." You want to know why I didn't bail backwards? Because I got really, I thought I was the smartest guy in the room my first year.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that the last 3 drafts now, first round, they stuck and picked Addison.
Yeah.
Last year they traded up twice to get guys. This year they stuck again. So I think we've learned our lesson about, and I would rather, like, I wouldn't have minded a trade down. It would have been nice to get more. But if you are going to say, you know what, let's go back to 22, Judd, I would say, hold on a second, say no more, just make your pick.
Yeah, you don't need golf. You need Troy. That's right.
I mean, he should have just said, look, guys, I'm not going to BS you. The 22 draft is going to hang over my head till the day he leaves. His Vikings tombstone will say, this is the man that oversaw a draft in which they took 10 players and most of them were busts.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, being a first timer in that position, I'm sure he wanted to come in and he was overthinking it and was trying to be, super aggressive and make it more. And I'm guessing now, if he looks back at it, he's probably like, "Oh my God, what was I thinking?"
Yeah,
my processes, or the way we go about it is so different now. I mean, and it's, you would think it'd be that, like, the more swings at this you get, the better you should be at it, and you learn lessons from mistakes that you made. So, and I do wonder how much O'Connell has had an input on that, where he's saying, you know what, let's take an offensive lineman here. Let's take this guard. We love these guys. Is 3 or 4 guys here if they're there. Let's shore up that and not try to overthink this to get more picks that may or may not, pan out. So
right.
You'd think he learns lessons.
And I think on Jackson, I think the prevailing thought from the Vikings was if they didn't take him, the Texans would have.
Yeah,
so
they
like
traded back,
it's not like
right
they
away.
could have traded back to 33 and still got him. And so I mean, if that's your guy and you are now at a position where, Chip, it feels like this is a chance. I'm not saying it's there yet, but it feels like this has the chance to be their best offensive line since 2009, you think?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I mean, that 09 group was really good. Sitting here on the spot, I
mean, since then it's been hit and miss.
It's the most decorated since then. I mean, you think about it, you have 2 tackles that have made Pro Bowls, right? A highly compensated guard, center as Kelly. He's
veteran.
Yeah,
he's been hurt, but he's got some nasty.
Yeah, he's got nasty, and a first round guard, pick a guard. I mean, how often do they do that? So
first round pick by the Vikings at guard since Randall McDaniel.
Oh my gosh, really?
It's been that long. Yep, last time. Well, and back then, I mean, I'm sure I don't recall it, but I'm sure back then it's like you took a guard with your first round pick. Are you crazy? Yeah. Like that's the thing is the sport itself and the game has changed because I think I brought this up with you on our last Purple Access, but I don't remember until like the last 5 years at tops, perhaps 3 years, where like the guard tackle thing. It's like it used to be a rare swing guy, right? And it was ordinarily a guy that wasn't that good at either one. And now it's like, hey, this guy played tackle, he played some guard. It's almost like a knock against you if you can't play both. Instead of, it used to be guard and center because those were much more alike.
Yeah. Do you think that's because just training and everything, guys have become more athletic?
Yes, and I also think that the game, the interior pass rush has changed so much, and it's so dangerous now because those guys. That's the thing is, the tackles are important, especially ordinarily the left tackle is huge because with a right-handed quarterback, it's his blind side. Yeah. But I mean, we see now these aggressive, and I mean, heck, some DCs send defensive ends inside on third down. Those guys are in the quarterback's face instantaneously.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I think you see in the versatility because I think offensive linemen have become more athletic. But I think there's been such a premium on finding athletic, massive, interior defensive tackles that can just collapse the pocket and ruin game plans that way. So that I mean, what did Quasey say last night? He's like, he looks at him guard, tackle. He called them protectors. It's like,
well, it's the positionless thing, man.
It's positionless.
That's
coming
you're
right.
That's here.
I mean, it's like if you can do both, like you said with Jackson, that probably got him picked at number 24. So
absolutely.
So I'm excited to see that group. Judd, what did we say when this started right after season? When we had that O'Connell quote, interior.
Yep.
One new guy was almost assured. 2 was probably more realistic. 3 might be unlikely because are you going to replace 3 guys in one off season? We
all said that. I didn't see this.
I mean, they did. I mean, it was.
Yep.
I didn't know that they would get. I'd hoped that they would. I thought 2 was probably more likely because of, just you had money, you had elsewhere, needs elsewhere, and you didn't have a lot of draft picks. But man, his frustration that night in the post game locker room carried all the way through to April. What was the draft yesterday? 22nd, 23rd, whatever it was. He was getting that fixed.
How much do you think this has to do with 2 things? How much do you think this has to do with McCarthy and a desire to protect him? And yes. I think there was a prevailing thought that Bradbury, with Kirk, we can get by, right? Like a veteran quarterback, but this is a kid. And how much do you think has to do with a realization that the run game has to be part of their arsenal? And the next thing, just quickly, I think the bigger question is not would KO want to improve the personnel. I think the real question is, okay, now are you going to run the ball when you should? Because he loves to pass. So now you are set up to run.
I think it's 3 things, and I guess I'll say them in importance. I think number 1, 100% is McCarthy. You used the highest pick on a quarterback ever in your franchise history. You have to give him every chance to succeed. And O'Connell says that quote. He says it once. He said it a million times. Organizations fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail organizations. Mm-hmm. He is determined that they're going to give McCarthy the best chance to succeed. I mean, if you're a first-year starting quarterback walking in with that offensive line, with Jefferson, with Addison, now with a stronger running game, with a tight end that that you can lean on. We said Sam Darnold walked into a great situation. This is an even better one.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, I think it was an admission that even though they ran the ball much better last year, it's still not where it needs to be in short yardage and in the red zone. And that'll make life, better on McCarthy, better on the defense, because they're going to, theoretically, they're going to be able to score more and can control the ball more, all those things. And then the third thing is, I think they looked at their competitors. Detroit, Eagles just won a Super Bowl because they dominated the trenches. I think they looked around and said, we're not going to be a legitimate contender if we don't address this. I mean, we can get to here, but we can't get higher than that. And so I think it's all those. I honestly think it's all those 3 things, those 3 factors that led him down this kind of path.
Yeah, and I think that KO for 2 years took umbrage at being called soft. Like he clearly didn't like that. And he clearly went out of his way starting in training camp 2024 to try to change that. But I think by the Detroit game, the realization was you can talk a good game and you can tell your guys to be tough, but you got to get tough guys. Like Ryan Kelly looks like a man that wants to kick our asses, which I, by the way, approve of. And I also think too, the Rams game was a debacle. Yeah. It's a debacle that went beyond Sam. But the game that didn't go beyond Sam was the Lions game. Yeah. And I asked Phil and Dex this on PD today as well, but if they can run in the deep red in that game, what happens? So now you're not asking Sam, you're basically scoring touchdowns because they had chances. what happens in that game if if Mason is behind a tough offensive line and now you don't have to worry about the ball being in a quarterback who's struggling in his hands?
Well, that's it. I mean, so Darnold was skittish. He was, just the moment was big. Judd, they didn't have a plan B. They didn't have anything else they could turn to when your quarterback was struggling like that.
Right.
There was not enough trust, and there was not enough trust in the run game because there wasn't enough investment in it in the interior line. They'd put that off and just for years it said, well, these guys will be good enough.
Correct.
Right? Well, they weren't. And so when your quarterback was melting down, they didn't have a plan B, so they couldn't go to anything else, so it just compounded. It just, it spiraled out of control. And so I think that game probably to O'Connell's like, man, we've got to be able to be more physical in the run game and run the ball in the red zone. And so if the quarterback is having one of those games or a defense is, taking stuff away, they can come back with a plan B, or they can come back with, a punishing running game. And so, yeah, I mean, I have to think O'Connell, has to be thrilled with what they've done this offseason in terms of addressing the real deficiencies that they had and giving themselves an opportunity to be just a more dynamic offense, because they can, in theory now they'll be able to just be a physical running team and line up with that. It doesn't just have to be the 20-yard exotic, scheme Jefferson open. No, they can line up with some nasty offensive linemen now. And if it's 3rd and 2, run it right down, the defense's throat.
Play action should cause fear now.
Yeah.
I think they've run it decently for sure. Like, it's not bad, but I mean, now it's a real threat, because if you're going to run, you're going to be tough to stop. I also think what's intriguing about this entire thing is, look, I think from day one of the start of the season, it's going to be really nice to have a run game and a line that can protect the quarterback and can run. But this is really done for when it's cold out. Like, this is really, and I'm not saying playing in cold cities. I'm saying, like, if you look at the Detroit game and the playoffs, right? It's a different sport. It's a different sport. And what, a lot of guys, back to the point of the previous line, get worn down. They're not big enough, and so, like, you get to December and January and guys are tired, and now it's hard to be tougher. And so I really think where we're going to see the fruits potentially of the draft last night and of the additions in free agency, it's going to be in late December. It's going to be as the season winds down, when you can still punch people in the face and you're not too tired to do it.
Well, that, and when you get in the playoffs, you're not facing bad defenses.
Right.
Like, throughout the course of a 17-game season, you're going to play some pretty, some mediocre, some bad, some good. But when you get in the playoffs, you're going to be facing just, elite defenses. And so you have to be able to match them up front. I mean, we just saw it. Like Philadelphia, as, great as Mahomes was, he didn't have a chance.
Right. And that was absolutely.
Philadelphia just absolutely dominated that game in the trenches. And so I think a lot of teams, I think that's why you saw the draft. A lot of teams look at that and said, man, we've got to be really, stout in that area, or you just don't have a chance. And so we've known that forever. It's cliche. Football's won in trenches, but it just seems like in the last few years, it's like, man, it is. I don't know if we're just more cognizant of it because the Vikings haven't been good in interior, or is it just
I think Smash Mouth is more back too.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing it with the running game. We're seeing it, remember how the running backs were going to be nobody wasn't how many in a top 10 running back, and the kid from North Carolina who I saw
Hampton.
Gophers played him. Oh my gosh, he is terrific.
Yeah, he's a load, right?
He was a one man. Yeah, he was really good. The Gophers will attest to that. That guy He was a stud.
Yeah,
He is
I
a
think
stud,
I think Genty might be special
I think he is. I think he is.
because and the skill set is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. He could have been a Heisman winner, you know. I mean, he had that kind of special season.
Yeah. What's your take on the Jaguars trading up to 2 to take Travis Hunter, who I think was the best player in this draft? What I'm curious about is, you can't play full time on both sides of the ball, so they can come up with like a wide receiver package if he's a starting cornerback. But I feel like the narrative is, well, he just plays both ways all the time. You're not going to play both ways all the time. You will just eventually pass out.
Yeah, I mean, he's unique. Like I'm a Heisman voter and voted him to win it because I just, you had a guy who was among the best at two positions in college football. You just don't see that. My hunch is that it will be a menu of plays, a package of plays for him at wide receiver. I mean, you can't do what he did at Colorado in the NFL. I don't see that.
I agree with you.
You don't leave the field. I mean, that's just
right.
I don't think that's just not feasible. So, but I think he can be a terrific, corner. And if you, give him 10 plays on offense, where he, red zone or other ways to get the ball in his hands. I mean, I see him doing that, but yeah, he's just a special talent.
Yeah, he looks like the definition of, and it's probably a cliche and used too much, generational talent.
Yeah,
like that's a special skill set. But yeah, I don't buy this. Well, he's going to play both ways. No, you can't do that. Not in that league. You'll get killed.
Not like he did at Colorado. He never left the field. I mean, he played. Like that was he was a legitimate two-way player and not just a sprinkling of plays. But I would definitely have whatever the number of plays for they put him at wide receiver. I see that happening, but I don't think it's going to be okay. Now we got the ball. You can be a wide receiver now.
Just go back and forth and learn and learn all those plays. Jackson Dart 25 Giants trade up. Your thoughts on Jackson Dart?
Yeah, I mean, he excelled in Lane Kiffin's offense. I mean, it's just so hard to know, what's going to translate from the college game to the NFL. I mean, the Giants, it's basically their Hail Mary right now, right? I mean,
well, and it sounds like they're still planning to start. They're saying they still plan to start Russell Wilson. They've got Jameis on the roster. I feel like Joe Judge, the GM, and Brian Dable, the coach, will never coach Jackson Dart, or like they'll be gone when if he gets to start ever.
It feels sort of like a Hail Mary, I mean,
it feels desperate.
Yeah, it feels desperate, but it's just, I mean, it is so hard. I got to imagine to evaluate quarterbacks because it's not apples to oranges, but man, they do so much. What they're asked to do at the college game is so different than what they're asked to do in the NFL, and so it's really hard to discern. Okay, is this translatable? Is this they're going to be able to process this and what we're asking them? So, but I mean, he got good coaching. With Kiffin. Kiffin, I think, is a brilliant offensive coach. So, but that feels like a desperation move. I think some people thought maybe what Shedeur Sanders was going to be in the mix, but just the question marks with him and with all the stuff that you have to put up with the I saw videos of him having a special room, a draft room that he had made.
And I do think Dion is much more of a potential hindrance because Chip, we both know pro teams hate parents.
Yeah,
pro teams never want to hear from they don't want to
never. No, you're a professional.
They don't want you to call. They don't want you to write. They don't want you to text, email. Like there is like just the threat of a parent. Pro teams hate that, and I'm not saying that's not why he dropped solely, but I am saying I think it factors into like when you're going through the potential positives of Shedeur and negatives, I think Dion, big negative.
Yeah. Well, it's just he's going to want to be involved. I think. I don't think he's going to stay on the sideline and
No, Dion.
A neutral
he'll comment
observer
publicly at least.
Yeah,
which teams also hate.
Well, that's it. Like, it's hard enough. And there's been such a spotlight on Shedeur, and I mean, they got video teams following him around and all that. If you're NFL teams, like, okay, how's he going to incorporate into an NFL locker room and have to command the respect and be, the leader of a team, and one of the guys is they're going to have the camera crews following them around and all. I mean, there's just things they have to. I mean, he's going to go pretty early on here today. This is Friday, round 2. So it's not like he fell, to the 6th round. I mean, he's going to he's going to go high, but I don't know. I hope he lands in a good spot, and I mean, I loved watching him play. I mean, his talent and ability to make his creativity, and I think he's got a ton of talent. It's just getting in the right situation for it, like as it is with any quarterback, right?
Yeah. Last question for you. After the Vikings pick in the first round, was there anyone that they didn't pick of the remaining guys that you, I don't know if question's the right word, but that you liked a lot?
That went after them?
Yeah, so like Dart, James Pierce, your guy.
James Pierce.
Malachi Starks.
I mean, the Starks was interesting because I thought there might be, and there was a lot of mock drafts that had them taking a safety.
Yes.
As you got to have a succession plan here for Harrison, and particularly a versatile safety like him that you can use, that kind of Josh Metellus hybrid, play all over. So I thought, a safety that had kind of those Brian Flores traits that he looks for that can be used in multiple ways. I thought that made sense. I thought that might where they go. I don't know. I mean, as much as I love Pierce from Tennessee as an edge, and I think he's going to be really good, you got Dallas Turner, and you got two guys who are, so edge didn't really.
And is he a 4-3 edge or a 3-4 guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think 4-3.
Okay, so he wouldn't. That's not a fit.
And he could. I mean, he could probably play 3-4. I mean, he's a talented guy. But to me, if it wasn't going to be offensive interior line, it needed to be defensive interior line. Yep. And you're right. When the kid from Oregon, Derek Harmon, right?
Yes. Yeah. He was.
I thought he was going to be a possibility. I just think those two interior lines were going to be and should be the focus. So nobody was like, wow, they missed out on that. I'm sure there are offensive line guys that they, like I said initially, Judd, I bet you there were 3 to 4 interior offensive guys that they said we'd be happy with one of these guys.
Gray Zabel.
Yeah.
Donovan Jackson. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I do wonder if they would have, that's my only question was, I do wonder if they would have taken a defensive tackle if there had been one there over Jackson, which I think might have been the case. But
if the Harmon guy, if the Oregon kid was there.
Yeah. Because you do need, like that's the thing is you cannot assume that both of those guys that they signed, the veterans in free agency, are going to hold up. Like you can't assume that.
And I think getting, some younger developmental guys there that necessarily don't have to start this year, but
Taki Taimani.
Yeah.
Redmond. They've got Redmond.
Right.
They actually like him.
Yeah, I know. But, I think this their 3rd round pick, what do you think? I think if there's a defensive tackle there or a corner.
Yeah, I'm also curious though. Are they going to trade back at some point here to get a couple more picks? And would they do that with a 3rd round pick?
Maybe. Yeah.
I still feel like they're going to bring in a veteran corner.
Good. Yeah,
I still feel like they're and they are walking a really interesting line of like there's a lot of win now moves, so that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I agree that there is a 2-year window here, but I think in their mind internally the window's thrown wide open in 25, where before I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
But when you're signing free agents, and I think Will Fries is the only one with like a sustainability factor. Like they're doing a lot, so I guess I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in a veteran corner again. I don't think they're going to bring back Gilmore. And did Shaq Griffin sign?
I don't know.
He visited Seattle, but
I haven't.
I feel like something's coming there.
Yeah, I haven't paid enough attention, but he would be a logical one. I mean, he fit in pretty well.
He's good in the locker room, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and knows the defense and probably wouldn't cost a ton. And he's just the guy you can rely on, So he would make sense if he hasn't signed. I haven't checked to see.
I think he is not, but. All right, Chip Scoggins, great stuff. We will talk to you next week on Purple Access, buddy. Okay.
All right, brother. We'll see you.
All right, take care.